Okay, my name is Marc Summers, Marc Summers. My background, wow, I grew up in the Midwest, Indianapolis, Indiana. My dream was always to be on television, and luckily that happened for me. Although the fight was quite difficult, I didn't get my first uh, national show until I was 34 years old. I was a professional magician. I was a comedian at a place called the Comedy Store. I did warm-ups on television shows. So I really paid my dues. And I think the old deal about you only get one chance to make a first impression, the show that I got that launched my career and launched a network called Nickelodeon was a show called Double Dare. And if I would have gotten the opportunity when I first came out at age 22, I wouldn't have been able to do it simply because I didn't have the experience. But when I auditioned when I was 33, I had all this background. And so when I had the opportunity, it worked out and it changed my life. From the time I was 33 on, I've been working consistently in the entertainment industry for about the last 35 years. So I don't know if you folks want to be in the entertainment industry, and it's somewhat irrelevant because I think in any line of work that you go into, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And it's not a matter of hoping that something happens. You have to make it happen on your own. And I lecture to schools and colleges on a fairly regular basis. And what I always like to say is nobody got up this morning and said, I got to go get Marc Summers a job today. It's up to you to get your own success and your own happiness. So on that, if you want to roll the videotape.
So we have some, can I ask you some of the student questions? Can we just jump right into the student questions?
Anything you want, sir.
Yes, sir. So I'll go ahead and I'll unmute one of our students in Italy. She regularly attends these, does a great job with speaking and listening. So Mev, you are unmuted live from Italy. Can you ask your first question to Marc?
Hi, Marc. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Where in Italy are you?
I'm near Venice.
My favorite part in the whole world. That's fantastic. You know Mestre?
Sorry?
Do you know the town of Mestre?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I remember going there as well. What's your question?
I would like to know what is your best work moment?
My best work moment. Wow. I've had so many great opportunities. When Nickelodeon was a part of Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida, I was there to help launch the opening and got to meet Steven Spielberg and interact with him. And throughout my career, I've had a chance to meet many people in the entertainment industry. And I think every time you get that opportunity, you learn from people who've been there before you. And if you have an opportunity like this to ask the kind of questions you're asking, and you have an open mind, I think it's important to ask those questions and find out what it was that made those people successful, how they got there, what their work ethic was. And so I started off in children's programming. I've been at the Food Network for the last 20 years. I've been a live performer, so I've toured the country doing large theaters, 20,000 seaters that we sold out. And so it's hard to pinpoint one spectacular moment. I've had tremendous amounts of luck and opportunity, and I've tried to take advantage of each and every one of them.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. And when you were one of the students here in America, they want to know, they don't have a working microphone, but they wanted to know, did you know that you were a part of television history, like while you were creating it?
No, we had no idea. You know, Nickelodeon, nobody knew what it even was. And it was our show Double Dare that put them on the map. And we were having the best time of our life when we were doing it, but one could never, you know, figure out why some shows are successful. Are they host-driven shows? Are they format-driven shows? And I've been lucky on a couple of levels, first with Nickelodeon with Double Dare, and then a show called What Would You Do? But then I moved over to History Channel, where I hosted a show called History IQ, which was supposedly the hardest game show on television. I did a talk show on Lifetime called Biggers and Summers, where we interviewed, you know, every major celebrity you could imagine. And then Unwrapped, which is a show about the history of food that I did for many years, is now on Discovery Plus, and it trends every day and every night because I guess the content and you know, people are familiar with me. I've been on television continuously since, you know, the last 30 plus years. And I guess there's a familiarity with certain hosts. And my mentor, a guy by the name of Dick Block, who started UHF TV, said all TV shows are the same until the person says hello. And if you like the way they say hello, you'll stick around. And if you don't, you won't. And luckily, people have loved the way I've said hello all these years, and it's kept me working.
Absolutely. Real quick, this is my wife. She's a huge fan of yours as well. We all grew up with you.
Hi.
And
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us today.
Our pleasure.
So one of the kids, they want to know what kind of advice would you have for them as far as what things should they study in high school? Would you recommend anything in particular?
Well, it depends. You know, if you're going in the entertainment industry, it's called show business, but it's more business than show. So the more you can learn about contracts and the background of how numbers work. I've had to budget programs, and that means they come to you and say, okay, we're doing your show. How much is it going to cost us? So you need to figure out, you know, how does that work? How many cameras do I need? How many producers do I need? What's the audio situation? Are we shooting in a studio? Are we shooting on the road? Do I need hotels and cars, or am I just going to stay stationary inside? So you have to be so well-rounded in so many different areas. But I think the thing that people forget about is the business aspect. You can never go wrong. You know, when you're in a math class or a geometry class, you say to yourself, I'm never going to use this. Why do I even care? Believe me, you'll be shocked how many times you're in a math class and you say it's stupid. And then fast forward the tape 20 years and you go, I wish I would have listened in class because I really need to know how to do that now. And, you know, the competition is fierce more and more because of computers and because, you know, it's like kids your age are born with chips in your head and you guys know how to do stuff that guys my age don't have a clue. We always have to get somebody your age to teach us how to do it. And so you're way ahead. You've got steps ahead of folks like me. But I think you have to exercise your brain and you have to exercise your knowledge. And every day you should try and educate yourself or learn something that you don't know because it'll work for you in the long run.
That's some great and sound advice. And, you know, I know a lot of you guys are familiar here with his work on Unwrapped. How did that kind of come to be as far as like the production of that show? And from my understanding that you guys, how many seasons has that been around?
I don't know, many. We've done hundreds of shows. And many things that have happened in my career were by mistake. The way I got Double Dare was by mistake. A friend of mine, Dave Garrison, who was a ventriloquist, got the first call. He had become frustrated with the entertainment industry and couldn't get to the next step. And so he decided to step back, become a producer and get off camera. And so he called me up and said, hey, you should go audition for this show. It's a network I've never heard of, Nickelodeon. It's a game show. I know nothing about it. You should go instead of me. So I went to the audition and they said, Dave Garrison. I said, Dave couldn't make it, but my name is Mark. Can I audition? And they said, sure. They had auditioned 1,000 people in New York, didn't like anybody, came to Los Angeles. And I was the first guy to audition. They auditioned another 1,000 people in LA. So now 2,000 people were auditioned. And I knew they were going to start shooting in September. One thing I always did when I went to audition was I got the name of the exec producer and the casting agent so I could call them at some point. And we were about 2 weeks out from when I knew they were going to start shooting. And I called Mike Klinghoff, the exec producer, and I said, hey, Mike, what's going on? Have you cast the show yet? And he said, it's funny, we were just talking about you. We've got it narrowed down to you and one other guy, but we don't know who to choose. And I said, well, what's the situation? They said, well, when we did the auditions, we had grownups playing the part of kids. So we don't know if you're good working with kids. And I said, well, I have kids. And they said, yeah, that doesn't mean anything. And I said, well, I used to do magic shows for kids. And they said, that doesn't mean anything. So I came up with the idea, why don't you put me and whoever this other guy is into a studio with live kids, play the game as it is, and let the best man win. So they flew both of us to New York. I did my audition first. The other guy did his. At the end of 2 days, on a Wednesday, I got a phone call and they said, congratulations, you're the host of Double Dare. And I said, after auditioning 1,000 people in New York and 1,000 in LA, please tell me why I got this job. And they said, quite honestly, you were both about the same, you know, talent-wise. But at the end of his audition, he looked in the camera and said, hey, do you guys want me to do something else? And I looked in the camera and I said, we'll be back with more Double Dare right after this. And because I threw it to commercial, they thought that was more professional. And that's why I got the job. So I had watched TV from the time I was a little boy on. I always knew that at the end of a particular stunt or the end of an act, you always threw to commercial. That's what I did. And it changed my life. A similar thing happened on Unwrapped. I had been producing television shows and I had a very amazing talent, Roseanne Gold, who was a chef. And I went to Food Network to pitch her. She had a book called Recipes 1, 2, 3. And I wanted to turn that into a TV show. And all the time I was there, the executive kept saying, well, why don't you do something for Food Network? Why don't you do something for Food Network? And I said, I'm not a chef. I know nothing about food. Why would I do anything about Food Network? Well, they gave me a show called It's a Surprise. It was a show about surprise parties. And the surprise was nobody was watching. It didn't do well at all. But I was getting ready to do a special called the National Team Pastry Championship up in Colorado. And they handed me a video of a special they did called Unwrapped with another host. And they said, look at this and tell us what you think. And so I looked at it, and at the time there was a show called Biography that was the #1 show on A&E. And I said, I think Unwrapped can be for Food Network what Biography was for A&E. So we shot 13 episodes, and they put us on Monday nights at 10:30, and it died. And the programming lady said, look, I'm going to move you to 9 o'clock on Mondays for 4 weeks. If it works, great. Otherwise, you're fired. Well, for some reason, the show at 9 o'clock got huge ratings. It became the #1 show. In fact, me and Emeril Lagasse used to trade first and second place shows. And so I was on for an hour Monday nights from 9 to 10. And then we did a game show based on it called Trivia Unwrapped. So it was all Marc Summers all the time from 9 in the evening till 10:30. And so that ran for a number of years as well. So those two shows established two networks. And being a part of that was an important part to my career and opened up so many other doors.
That is absolutely phenomenal. And just to give, before we let you go, we'll let you go in a few minutes, but just to give the kids an idea, at your peak, like what is your production schedule hours like? Because you produce multiple shows. I mean, even in the days of Double Dare, I read somewhere that you guys produce multiple shows in a single day.
We would shoot 6 Double Dares in one day, and I was doing that Monday through Friday. And at another time I was shooting a show in Los Angeles called Couch Potatoes, a TV trivia show. So I would shoot 30 episodes of Double Dare Monday through Friday out of Philly. I'd get in a plane at 6 o'clock on Friday night and fly to Los Angeles, get in at 9 o'clock at night. I would shoot 5 Couch Potatoes on Saturday, 5 on Sunday, catch a red eye at 11 o'clock, back to Philly, get in at 6 in the morning and start it all over again. I did that for 2 years. So it was an intense schedule, but it was fantastic. When I was producing both Dinner and Restaurant Impossible, same situation. We were shooting endless episodes, and we would leave on a Monday, shoot Tuesday and Wednesday, and come back either Wednesday night or Thursday, take a few days off and keep doing it. And we shot about 90 episodes of Dinner Impossible and about 160 Restaurant Impossibles. So, and I switch back and forth. Sometimes I'm talent, so I was doing Unwrapped while I was doing Dinner Impossible, and other times I'm exec producing shows, creating, selling, and doing that. So it's good to be able to do many things. If you're an expert in one, unless you're Yo-Yo Ma and you're the greatest cello player in the world, then you don't have to worry. But I was always concerned about what else can I do to enhance the brand of Marc Summers. And so I was always trying to either write or produce or be talent on as many shows as possible.
Well, we thank you for sharing that brand with us today. And before we let you go, is there any advice you could give to these kids as they kind of go off into the world and figure out what they want to do? As someone who has done so much in your career,
Well,
what kind of advice would you have for them?
COVID has changed your lives in many ways, especially those of you who are in Europe. Hopefully we're getting a handle on this thing and we can get back to some normalcy. So, you know, probably threw you guys off your game plan for a little bit of time. But I think networking with people, here's what I always do. If there's people you want to meet, the best way to do that, I think, is by sending them a FedEx because it shows some importance. And you can write a letter. And when you write a letter to somebody you've always wanted to meet, you shouldn't ask for a job. You should say these words: I need some advice. If you start your letter with, "Dear Mr. Summers, I've been a fan of yours for years, and I need some advice." Most people in any industry love to pontificate and talk a little bit about what they've done. And once you could get in the door and actually see somebody, hopefully not just Zoom, but in person, you can do whatever you want once you're in the door. If you call up and say, "I need a job," the answer is generally no. But if you say, "I need some advice," people love to tell you what they did to get to point A to point B. And then when you're in the door, if you say, "Well, if there's anything you can do, or can you set up some meetings for me?" It happened to me the other day. I went to a restaurant. I'm wearing a mask. And the girl said to me, "Aren't you that guy from Unwrapped?" And I said, "How did you know?" And she said, "You have a very distinctive voice. And I understand. And I figured that was you." And I said, "What do you want to do?" And she said, "I just graduated from college and I want to be in television." And I asked her what particular area. And she said, "Casting." So I gave her my email. She sent me an email, and now I'm connecting her with one of the casting people who used to work for me at the Food Network. So if you don't ask, you don't get. You can't be shy. You have to be aggressive. And once again, you're responsible for your own success and your own happiness. And I think you always have to be inquisitive and ask questions and meet as many people as you can, and that will open doors along the way.